This week's show is brought to you by Miracle Made. Brad and Alex. I like sleeping.
It's maybe my favorite thing.
It's a pretty good thing.
Learning a lot about you as we do these ads. You like to eat and you like to sleep.
These are true. Yeah. These are both. Look, I would say love both of those, but sleeping is a high on my list. Things that are not high on my list are uncomfortable sleeps. Very low on the list of things I enjoy.
That sucks.
Maybe near the bottom. Miracle Made sheets are there to help you with a better quality sleep. It says here, inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. That perfect temperature to me would be near Arctic freezing, but I have to say I've enjoyed my Miracle brand sheets, and it has been very warm these last few weeks. Self-cooling properties for better quality sleep is what they say here, and I was shouted from the rooftops because I'm all about better quality sleep.
I mean, they're like silver.
Silver infused.
They look like space.
That silver infused, Brad, can also, says here, prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving your sheets to stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets.
That's good, because I'm going to tell you, microbes not high on my list.
No, that's also bad, both in sleeping and eating. Go to trymiracle.com/Nextlander to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo Nextlander at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Nextlander. Use the code Nextlander to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. That's trymiracle.com/Nextlander to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Alex Navarro, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. That's starting with me. Hi.
Yep. Starting with you. Doing well?
Yeah, doing all right. Having a
Fantastic.
productive couple of days here while my partner's out of town.
Great. Look, it's pretty pleasant weather out there, nice, which makes my mood happier.
Oh, I'm not going outside.
No, good for you.
No, I've just been putting together my game shelf here.
Game shelf.
Yeah.
Brad Shoemaker, how are you?
Hello, doing well. The sun's out today. That's always nice. Feeling a dark urge here and there, but just trying to suppress it and move on.
Don't give in to the dark urge. Or
No
do give
follow-up
in
questions.
to the dark urge.
Or do?
Or do. We are going to be talking about Baldur's Gate 3 here, the official release of Baldur's Gate 3. So we're just going to jump into it because probably a decent amount to get through before we hit the first break here.
Yeah, you seem like you're bursting to talk about it.
I've really enjoyed this game. We're going to talk about it. There'll probably be some minor spoilers in there if you haven't started the game yet. Of course, the PlayStation 5 version is still about a month-ish away. We're not going to go too in detail here. I think, Brad, you're still fairly early on, so I don't even know if you could spoil too much. I
kind of made basically a throwaway character just to poke at the mechanics.
Okay.
I would say more than like try to make a lot of progress. I don't consider this my like real character.
So if you're listening to this, like we're probably just going to talk about the basic overall vibe of it and what's been going on, what we like about it, what we don't like about it. Nothing specific on the story side. But Brad, you have been playing some of the Dark Urge stuff, so we might get into some of that. But let's maybe start with since this game has been out in some form or another for around not 2 years, but let's say 1 year and 3/4. I think it was October 2020-ish when this thing actually hit early access. You guys play much of this?
Not 2020. No.
Wait, wasn't it?
I think
That
so.
sounds right.
That's like 3 years.
I feel like didn't we do a quick look of this when it went into early access?
That's right. It's 2023. Yes. This thing has been out for a while.
I think not long after the pandemic started. Even I think.
Jeez.
I can't remember.
It's been a long road. Are you looking it up, Alex? I would
Yes,
like
I am. You're
confirmation.
right.
Yeah, September,
In fact, it was
September 2020.
It was October 6th, 2020. That seems impossible somehow, but it was in fact the case.
Damn near 3 years of early access.
Yeah, so this has been around for a while. It's been iterated a while. So, not all of the game, obviously, in early access. I think it was mostly Act 1 has been in early access. They did a pretty big dump of stuff leading up to the full release, some new characters, some new classes, and obviously the rest of the game that's in there. And they changed up some of the early stuff in the game. So again, just to kind of go back, Brad, had you played much in early access?
Not at all. I have very little experience with this kind of CRPG, other than I played a good 15-20 hours of Divinity Original Sin, the first one, and thought it was fantastic.
Sure. I always know you're a DOS guy.
Yes, exactly. But I never played any of these games back in the day.
Alex, did you play in early access?
I played some. I played the intro bit and kind of got into that first town area, but then I kind of put it down because I was like, I don't want to get too deep into this until the actual thing comes around, because I knew not all the content was in there.
Yeah, not only was the content not in there, the saves would not come over. So that was kind of a big one too. And they changed a decent amount of stuff, so I can see why that would happen. So this is Larian Studios' take on Baldur's Gate. Obviously, Baldur's Gate of BioWare fame, very beloved kind of CRPG, like we just said, from back in the old isometric CRPG craze.
Mm-hmm. Good old Infinity Engine.
Yeah, maybe would you say probably Baldur's Gate 2-ish is one of those ones you just hear as a gold standard for that?
I always wonder which one is the one, or even if there is a one from that period, because it's both Baldur's Gates, is Icewind Dale another one?
Yeah, that's
Planescape Torment.
Yeah.
They were just cranking those things out, and I feel like they're all beloved on different levels. Yeah,
I played Baldur's Gate kind of a little later. And went through it. I don't think I ever finished either of them. They're a little tougher to go back to these days. I went back with those enhanced editions and tried going back. The story stuff is still good, but and they added some quality of life things, but it's just, I was more of a Neverwinter guy, and that was post Infinity Engine. Neverwinter and KOTOR, I feel like, are in those veins. And this, I'll tell you, this game has me thinking about KOTOR a lot.
Sure. I can see that.
It's obviously not BioWare, but I think there's something about I didn't play a ton of Divinity either. I played some, I dabbled in it. But there's something about the party mechanics and the interactions that just feel like they are plucking the same strings that KOTOR did in a way. Just very similar, interactions. And it might be some of Larian's tongue-in-cheek or let's just say even more cheeky, let's say, takes on stuff. They give you a lot of silly options for dialogue choices and if you want to role play. So Baldur's Gate 3 now out on PC officially.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's crazy to step back and remember that this game and Mass Effect are on different branches of the same family tree.
Yeah,
basically.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, Mass Effect literally a direct lineage with BioWare, right?
Right. It's like Mass Effect might as well be the sequel to KOTOR, right?
Right.
At least in terms of development.
There is a world where BioWare, some team within BioWare made Baldur's Gate 3, but Larian kind of picked it up and went that way, kind of down the more Baldur's Gate path, and I feel like BioWare went down we're owned by EA and need to make these types of more action game path. And listen, I love Mass Effect, so it's all right, because I think Larian has done a fantastic job here. My short overview is I've put a lot of hours into this so far. I don't even know what the count is because my hour count is completely messed up because my kids are also playing on the PC. But and I had early access stuff. My hour count says somewhere in the 70 plus hours at this point, but it is not there. In this release of it, I had 20 something hours before in early access. I played and I fell asleep overnight with the thing on. It's one of those. I've been up late playing a lot of Baldur's Gate, and I really, really like it. My kind of sense of D&D 5th edition with Baldur's Gate is I think it's doing a pretty good job of trying to map into 5th edition rules. It reminds me of how much I hate a 5th edition game that plays rules as written. because there are things in Baldur's Gate that are like, oh, come on, dude. I'm like inches away from this guy and you're going to say I'm too shy to make this attack, or, you know, things that are a DM would rule and be like, you're close enough, you know.
Is that something that is not the case in not 5e? What is the current edition?
5th edition.
Is it still 5?
Yeah. They're like, the whole move out of 5th edition is kind of a mess. We shouldn't get into it, but they have their big anniversary coming up for, I forget what year anniversary, but it's a big anniversary. People love 5th edition. I think they feel the need to put something new out, but now don't forget Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, is owned by some like holding company. I forget what who the top line on Hasbro is, and they've had a lot of serious stepping in dog shit moments recently.
They're probably part of Yum Brands at this point.
Probably
like Pepsi, a Pizza Hut, and and Dungeons and Dragons. I started to say TSR, which really is just dating me at this point, I guess, because do they even use that name anymore?
No, that's a separate thing that has gone. I feel like has gone in and out of bankruptcy like 3 times. I could be getting that totally wrong, but you know, look, 5th edition I think was getting to a pretty good place, or is in a pretty good place. The whole brand with Dungeons and Dragons has had a lot of work to do over the years to kind of make it a more inclusive game, and I feel like they are taking those steps. This is not really Baldur's Gate related, but they have been pushed, I think, along by things like Pathfinder, which have also tried to make the games feel more inclusive and, you know, shake off some of the more, let's say, not healthy parts of D&D that have, you know, for a game that was made in the 70s, let's just say wasn't the most mindful.
They've nudged some things, maybe a little more modern. Some sensibilities.
Yeah, and I think it's done a pretty good job of some of that, and, you know, still work to go. But Baldur's Gate 3, boy, let me tell you, it feels like it is trying to be a lot of things to a lot of people, and maybe succeeding in that way. Because as soon as you get into that character creator, you've got a decent amount of options. It is not one of those move your cheekbones and nasal bones and stuff around.
I was surprised that there was not more of a facial slider setup. I think there's just four preset body types and like maybe a dozen faces or something, and that's it.
It depends on what origin you pick, or what race you pick for your character. Some will have 2, some will have 4, some might have 6. I'm not sure. I think generally it's like small frame, large frame for the body types, and then kind of whether you kind of default stock male or female, and then you can go in and change, kind of mess around with, you know, oh, okay, I want this body type, but I want to be gendered female, or I want this, or I want to be non-gendered, or I want to be, you know, they even have one of the first games I may have ever seen that has a genitalia selector for different types of genitalia.
That Conan game also had some version of that, right?
Sliders.
It was sliders, that's what it was.
So this lets you kind of mix and match a lot of body types in even genitalia, which is, you know, I think great. Build the idealized version you want to represent your character here, which and I think they're doing a pretty good job in that. They actually just had to patch in some stuff that was funny in their patch notes, where certain penises were clipping through clothing, which was a very fun patch note.
I heard the gnome wizards were missing their undies.
Yeah, so
I wouldn't have minded like the full on insane character creator sliders for everything, like tweak every single thing.
Yeah,
every which way. Like, it would be nice to have that, but like, the camera's so pulled out most of the time. I mean, you do see your character in cutscenes up close, but maybe it wasn't worth that much work for the character creator for a game that's like a kind of overhead perspective.
Yeah, maybe, but it looks pretty good when your character's up close. So
yeah, the characters look good for sure.
They look good, but the character creator runs through some pretty standard 5th edition rules for making your character, and you can make your own character with. You don't get to like type in an origin story or anything like that, but you do make your own character that has nothing tied to it necessarily. And then you can pick from a kind of like Divinity, you can pick the pre-made characters if you want.
That was the thing that, like, I mean, you tell me, was this like something from the Infinity Engine games? And everybody's just gonna be like, yeah, duh, dude, like that's like core to all of these things. But like, I knew of like Shadowheart and Gale from watching you play it and stuff. I knew of them as like story party members, right?
The companions, yeah.
Right, but can you also just play them as your character?
So that, I don't know if I would say that Infinity, yes, that is what you could do, but I don't know if I would call that Infinity Engine as much as Larian. Like, I think that's very
okay.
Divinity.
Maybe Divinity had that and I forgot. it just like everything about this game just gives the impression that like anything is possible, or that like it accounts for literally any choice you can possibly make. And there probably is some writing around making that glue together with the rest of the story. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one thing to be able to like make your own character and pick an origin and a race and all this stuff, but to also account for you like plucking characters out of the story who are supposed to be party members and making them your playable character instead, like seems nuts to me.
So just from a like matrix of possibilities kind of standpoint, you know what I mean? So I tried. I have my character, which is which my main save is make my own character, do my own thing, and then I tried starting up with 3 or 4 of the pre-made characters to see how different it is. You do get some slightly different cutscene in the beginning, in that pre-rendered stuff. At least I watched the full one again for the Gith character to be like, well, what are they going to do? Because you meet this character on the ship, like halfway through the ship. How are they going to show that in this opening scene? And it is a little different. But that being said, they kind of funnel back into a starting point there on the beach after the ship, at least from the 3 that I tried. I tried the Gith character. I tried, there's some other characters that you don't meet until way later on. I tried them as well. So, and they kind of funneled me back to the beach, and they do the same thing they do with your character, which is your character's dialogue. You don't hear it, even for those pre-made characters, which is a little weird because in the companion side of things, they're fully voiced. And then when they're your playable character, those lines are not read.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like it made me think like the character you're talking about, she is in the intro, and then after the ship crashes, she's gone. I don't know how, if you're not playing as her, I don't know how quickly they bring her back into the story, but like I assume that your companions are not with you 100% of the game. You know, it's like, I assume they go off at times and leave and go serve some other purpose. So it makes me wonder, like, if you're playing that character, are you going off to play those events instead, or do they write around it and send some other character off to do that part of the plot? And you know what I mean? But
so on the ship where you meet that character, you meet a totally different character.
Okay.
That they then kill off after the ship.
Interesting. Yeah. Like I got like Mass Effect 3 tackled that pretty hard because they had to, because so many people could be dead by the time you got to 3, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole alternate roster. It's like a whole alternate reality version of your crew of other characters. Like, oh, there's a different Krogan who can serve Rex's role in the story and stuff like that.
So the thing I was concerned about, and I talked to some other folks who have been playing a bit more, was would you get more of the companion story if you played that as your character, right? Like, would you, because their stories are really interesting, the companion characters. They have probably the most depth. Your character really is a blank slate that has kind of no background character at all.
Unless. Maybe we should get into it later, but unless you pick the Dark Urge.
Unless you pick the Dark Urge, which is the pre-made character that you can change class and ancestry, race in it. They have their own story background, which is super cool. Dark Urge seems like the character Larian put in it to be like, we know you want an evil character. Like we know you want to make the most horrible, worst decisions possible. Let's just give you an opportunity to do that.
So I am right at the beginning with that character, so there's no spoilers here because I haven't seen that much. But I made a, what is it? They start you as a is it Dragonborn?
Dragonborn, yeah.
That seems like such a Skyrim thing. It's weird to say, but they started you as a Dragonborn. I tried making a female drow fighter instead just to see how much you could change it up, and you totally can. But excuse me. I think that archetype is just a fucking demonic serial killer.
Yeah.
It's literally like
that's what they pitched it as, yeah.
You literally just get little extra bits of narration around different interactions out of nowhere that basically describe your irresistible urge to kill over and over. Like, it really threw me off guard because, like, literally on the beach, you know, like after the ship crashes and there's all these dead fishermen around everywhere.
Yeah.
Presumably people who died in the ship that, like, the ship landed on or whatever.
It's a big ship, yeah.
Like, you walk up to the first one of those and you normally, I assume any other character type, you would just loot the corpse and move on. It straight up goes to a cutscene of you staring at the fisherman with the narration saying, like, I can't remember what it says. It's like like a sinister, mysterious feeling takes hold of you as you stand over the corpse.
Oh dear.
You know, and it just goes on and on about like the bizarre feeling in your mind. And like I did some skill check there. It was like, try to remember your past, and I did a skill check that I passed, and then it was like visions of this scene playing out thousands of times before float into your mind.
Oh, interesting.
Like death after death after death. Like you feel the urge to kill and kill and kill again.
Oh,
It's
wow.
fucking dark, man. It's crazy.
So they revealed that the Dark Urge wasn't in early access. They revealed it right before they went 1.0 at one of their big events, and that was basically, yes, a serial killer was kind of like, I think one. Yeah. I don't know if that's verbatim what they said, but
it's kind of disturbing. Like, actually, the end of that little interlude with the dead villager straight up was a choice of like, it was like an evil smile starts to creep onto your lips, and it's just like the choices are like resist the urge, this is wrong, or just like embrace the smile. Mm-hmm. And I picked that one, and the characters just got this like awful placid grin on their face.
Oh, you found your smile.
It's kind of disturbing.
So I think that I'm saving the Dark Urge. I'm waiting on a second playthrough to play through that. My character is basically now trying to be as good as I want them to be. It's really interesting. Again, I'm not going to get into spoilers here, but they have this whole mechanic that I think I'm going to pretty much be avoiding my entire playthrough. That I'm not going to dabble in, because I feel like my character and what I feel like is I don't want to engage with it. It's just not a thing that my character would engage with. And it's going to basically, because I looked at some of it up, is going to mean that I'm not going to have this whole other part of the game open up for me.
Is that something that came with your class or your
no? It's
origin?
Mainline story stuff,
or is it something everybody gets?
Yeah,
huh. You don't want to say what?
I don't want to say what or where it goes, because it is part of the mainline story stuff. But people who've played it will know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's unavoidable. It's part of the mainline story stuff. But I'm not engaging with it, and I'm saying no, not going to do it.
No.
Does it have anything to do with Shadowheart by chance?
I mean, since it's mainline story stuff, yes, but not in the way I think you mean.
Okay.
It has more to do with the premise and the setup of, you've got this. The setup is, this is not spoilers, the main thing. You and your party of companions are all infected with this mind flayer parasite.
Okay. Yes. I thought you were talking about something else. Yes.
So you can sometimes have the opportunity to engage and make choices based on having this parasite in your head. And I've been trying to be like, I'm not messing with that thing, man. That seems like some trickery. I'm not giving into it.
Just taking the temperature, like the vibe of how this game rolls. I wonder if there's like some hidden timer ticking away that like something crazy happens if you don't deal with the parasite fast enough.
I don't know.
Or something.
I've been kind of rolling with it. I think I'm relatively early on. I think I'm still in Act 1, so if that means something to everybody. But I've been kind of exploring every nook and cranny of the world, having a lot of fun with it, a lot of fun with the character interactions. I'm shocked at how much voice work is in this game. Like, just seems like every character you come along has at least one line to say, which is voiced, which is shocking.
It's like 130 gig download for a game that is, again, with like a pulled out camera and stuff. I was like, boy, that's a large install for this type of game. So that makes sense.
It's not without its hiccups and, seeing some of the seams in what's going on. But they have already put out a patch, which they said addressed over like 300 things, which I read through it and was like, okay. Some of the stuff in it isn't perfect, and it's never going to be a recreation of a tabletop game. You're just not going to get that, no matter, even if you replace the whole thing with the greatest and latest AI. There's just something about a human interaction, which is going to be. This DM is not here to do collaborative storytelling with you. This DM is here to kill you. This in battles, this DM is here to win, right? And it's they have I forget what they call the most narrative focused one, but they have that option for difficulty, balanced, and I think it's tactician all the way on the right. I'm playing on balanced, and those battles can go wrong very quickly. Also, they will attack your corpse when you're downed, which is like an effed up thing to do.
Yes.
And if a DM ever did that, I'd be like, dude, I'm not playing this with you anymore. You don't attack the downed corpse to put you into a death state. You know, it's not cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool in a way for every single thing that happens to be that consequential. I mean, I'm sure. Well, you need to get used to quick saving very quickly.
Oh my gosh,
I learned that very fast. Like quite literally the first battle after the tutorial fast when I lost like 20 minutes of progress.
Is that the when you fight those two?
It's where you fight the 3 brain dogs on the ship because you can wander back onto the ship and like.
Yes.
I barely beat them. I did beat them, but like it was a little close.
They'll do some damage, man.
But then I walked right up to one of those, and again, I was just kind of playing around with the game to see how things worked. But I walked up to one of the little Mind Flayer tanks, the little purple, glowy. Just went up to it and clicked it with my sword to see what would happen, and it immediately killed my whole party.
Yep.
And I had lost like 20 minutes. Like I said, it's like I think that's cool. I like, especially like me having played a lot more Japanese RPGs back in the day, like where random encounters just turned into an absolute grind. You know?
Yeah.
Like those were the throwaway battles. You know, it's like you don't die on random encounters. You only die on boss fights. So to have a game like an RPG where like literally the first fight in the game outside of the intro can be deadly is kind of an adjustment.
So it's a video game still, right? So again, it's going tabletop to video game. It is going to do things that are going to be frustrating and annoying that wouldn't happen necessarily in a tabletop game. Also, you don't have all of the freedoms you have in a tabletop game. There was one part where I crashed this rock, hanging suspended rock through a floor, and I couldn't necessarily, if I were playing a tabletop game, I'd be like, I want to look in or listen in to see if there's anything down there, and I couldn't do that. So I jumped down there and wound up in an encounter which was way above my level. And again, it's one of those things where I hadn't quick saved that recently and was like, oh, do I want to lose 20 minutes, or do I want to try and save scum my way through this battle, right? And I had, but the cool thing was I had separated my rogue from the party. So when you separate, you can ungroup people from the party. So while 3 of my party was engaged in a battle, the separated rogue was still above ground outside of the hole and was able to sneak in the back door through passing a dialogue check to get inside this base, then murder everyone on the way to meeting the party.
Wow.
And then
cool
get in behind them and just start murdering everybody from the back as my party was fighting towards the front. And that was kind of rad.
That's pretty fucking cool. I mean, is that a specific mechanic that you have to do? Like you have to detach somebody from the party? Is that you're like clicking a button to do that?
Yeah, so
you're not just walking them away, I guess. Is what
no, you drag them from the portrait side and to snap them off. And you can separate the entire party, which you can cheese it a little bit because you can have one party member engage in a battle. And as long as your other party members are hidden, each of them will get a surprise attack jumping into the battle on the enemy, and which means that, that enemy didn't see the 3 other people behind here.
It's valid. You're just a company of brigands, you know?
Yeah. Look, you can murder as many things as you want. I've saved scummed a bit. I'm not playing Iron Man through this, especially as I learn the mechanics. Like if I do terribly during a battle, I will sometimes just be like, you know what, I blew too much. You know, this is. So tabletop D&D has a thing where you take long rests, and so there's this, right? You're gonna spend resources, and in tabletop D&D 5e 5th edition, you will take a long rest, and depending on your DM, that might cost you some supplies or not. This to kind of account for that cost you limited supplies that you have to take a long rest. You have to use camp supplies, so you're not long resting all the time. So as far as people can correct me if I'm wrong, but in 5th edition, generally like the Dungeon Master's Handbook is like, you should probably be you should expect a party to do 2 short rests and then a long rest. And that's kind of what this game adopts. It seems like, hey, you should be able to do like a couple of encounters and then take a long rest, and not just long rests over every encounter. So you get short rest, which will get you some abilities and health back, and you get 2 of those. And then to get anything back like that, you'd need a long rest. It's an interesting way for them to gate not just abusing the long rest mechanic to have that stuff happen. And when you take a long rest, you go back to your camp, and that's where a lot of the narrative bookmarking happens with your party members. It's like going back to your ship in Mass Effect. And it's like, like in Mass Effect, you'd have to do some missions and then you get the dialogue to come back. The equivalent of that seems like doing a long rest, and then suddenly your companion has like a new thing to say that moves their side plot. They all have their side plots and stuff.
Does it seem like you could ever miss anything by resting too frequently or too soon? Like if you go do a long rest, you're going to trigger some next step in the story when you weren't ready to move on yet, kind of thing.
I don't know if you would miss anything. You might get it earlier than I'm not sure what flags are being ticked when in the game.
Fucking, I'm actually realizing as I'm talking about this, I have been scarred by the experience of reviewing Mass Effect 2 before it was out, and anybody knew what the timer was before the suicide mission, and losing Kelly Chambers and half my crew.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Are you advancing too quickly?
Not knowing about the hidden mechanics of you can only do so many missions after the Reaper IFF before people start dying type stuff like that. So I'm always conscious in games like this of what hidden triggers are going on behind the scenes that you might stumble into.
I have not seen, or in talking to a bunch of people, heard about anything like that yet. So make sure you do this before you do this. I have not heard about anything like that. Again, I'm still fairly early on, but I've been having a good time, exploring and abusing the mechanics in this game.
Yeah,
has been super fun. Like that thing with the rogue, right? Once that happened to me once, I started setting up encounters like that where I'll split the party up, surround a group, and then initiate the fight with somebody. There's fall damage, so you can shoot stuff out from people. You can have them put shove on a bonus action, so you can hit somebody and then just shove them with a free action or a bonus action to push a lot of people into pits. It's cool, man. I'm having a lot of fun, basically mucking around with the combat. I hope even now, I still hope they add more classes soon. The class I play in my main D&D game, which is a Soul Knife Rogue, is not in the game, and I want that to be in the game because it's a cool-ass class. I'm playing a wild magic sorceress, let's say. Big old tiefling, and she... the wild magic stuff is cool. It basically means if you do this mechanic Tides of Fate, which can give you advantage on some rolls, there's a random spell effect next time. I got polymorphed into a sheep for about 9 rounds of combat. One time I just got this bubble around me. It's like a fun, dumb mechanic that I've always liked in 5th edition. So they're implementing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it's been pretty approachable as a novice so far. I mean,
good, okay.
It's mostly pretty self-explanatory. I think the only thing I wish they were a little more aggressive about is just telling you when to hit end turn. I mean, I know there's meters that basically make it seem like you're ready to go, but
yeah.
And the abilities are grayed out when you can't use them anymore. I guess I almost wish it had an option to, you can also undo end turn, so I guess you don't want them to take that control away from you.
You can undo it if you have linked initiative with another character. If your initiative is split, they'll show it in the top there. Okay,
so that's the kind of stuff I don't quite grasp as a newcomer, that it doesn't really tell you. I don't think I saw tutorials for stuff like that, where it's just a little unclear if I should just hit end turn and move on, or if I'm wasting opportunities that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, it's funny. I've played with a controller and with a mouse and keyboard, and they do the thing where they completely change the UI for a whole different UI for a controller. And I feel like on the controller, it's more clear what your action economy is with the controller, because it actually says actions 1 at the bottom of the screen, bonus action 1 or 0 at the bottom of the screen. And then it has little tip. I think this is in the mouse and keyboard one too. It has pips for your spell slots. Yes. So, but it just says literally you have one action, whereas I think on the mouse and keyboard one, it's if that dot is lit up or not, right? The actions dot or the bonus actions thing. They do radial menus on the controller, which is interesting, that you can customize. Yeah, it's pretty functional on a controller, but mouse and keyboard, it seems a lot more efficient in my estimation, having played both now for a bit. I'm actually kind of excited for this to come to PS5, and with cross-save stuff, it seems like it could be pretty easy to jump back and forth.
Yeah, it really seems like a game that encourages repeat playthroughs because so many different things can happen and you can do things so differently. Like, even just going through the first hour, it's like, can you leave Shadowheart on the ship? Like, you meet her in a pod on the ship. Can you just, like, opt to not open that pod and she's just not in the game from then on? Or
I don't know if they would completely get rid of her in the game, but you can definitely not. Like, when I was playing with Dave, we just murdered every NPC we saw.
So that was the other thing I tried was I didn't leave her behind up there. I was like, all right, I'll go with the kind of golden path on that. But then you guys fought her after she had gotten up and was like awake, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I, especially as the Dark Urge character, I just walked up to her and clicked her with the sword, and she died in one hit. Like,
oh
I
my gosh! Okay,
killed her while she was still unconscious.
Oh, bother.
Okay, yeah,
and then took all of the stuff she had.
Okay,
like, I'm just fascinated by the different all the branching that could happen in this, and the different choices you could make like that. That like feel like you're breaking the game, but I assume they've accounted for it all and it's legitimate.
Yeah, that stuff sounds awesome. Also, the class specific or origin specific dialogue options seem neat. That stuff gets a little clunky here and there where depending on which character you're controlling in your party, because you can have direct control of any character in your party, you might stumble onto a dialogue check in a place that you don't want that character to be the front man in that check. And sometimes it's not as easy as it should be to just switch into another character for that dialogue. Sometimes you can just say leave and you'll be able to come back and do another check with a different character. Sometimes you can fail the check. Somebody will be like, get out of here or I'll kill you. And then just switch to a different character and come back and be like, hi, what's your situation? Like, oh, you're my best friend. Okay, come on in. So sometimes it feels a little clunky in that regard. But it's okay. I've still been able to really enjoy it. And the characters I have in my party so far, I have enjoyed all of them. I just met this new character, this barbarian character that I'm like, oh, you're staying in this party. I'm kicking someone else out. Like, I'm bummed you can only have 4 in the party.
Oh, is that not somebody who's in that list of origin characters at the beginning?
They are, I think, but
okay.
they weren't in early access, so I wasn't very familiar with them. They are man, so much fun stuff has already happened to my main character that I want to talk about, and like stuff I've been talking to people on the Discord and people being like, whoa, you saw what? You did this? Mine happened this way. And it's just been those kinds of stories, which, or like, oh my gosh, that happened to you? Yeah, that happened to me. And like, I reloaded when that happened. Like, I didn't, I just went with it. Plus being able to just run around everywhere butt naked is just a pretty good option. Everybody gets their,
now you're talking about language.
Everybody gets their like camp clothes and their regular clothes, or you can
is that where the clothing shows up? I was wondering because when I killed Shadowheart, I looted Shadowheart's clothes, but then
like
I put
underwear,
them on and I didn't see any difference.
Yeah. There's your like fighting clothes, your underwear, and your camp clothes.
Got
it. Or you could just take everything off and just have everybody in camp be butt ass naked, which is always a
sounds
fun
like
option.
The way to go.
Yeah.
Man, they're really undermining the nude mod aftermarket.
That's right.
By just building it into the game.
It's exactly what I thought. It was like, wow, somebody's just going to do this anyway, like nude Shadowheart anyway. Let's just have this in the game and control it.
But that frees up the nude modders to apply their talents on other games that are not allowing for this amount of freedom. If anything, we are creating a greater proliferation of nudity.
Fair. Yeah, just seeing how much is possible in this makes me think like when I roll a real character and actually play through it, like I'm Vinny. I'm guessing you feel a lot of this urge in games like this as well, of like kind of wanting to see what they think is like the correct story. You know what I mean? Or like it's like, okay, what's the critical path through this?
The canonical story.
Yes. Yeah. What is the canonical story here? Like, try to resist that urge to do everything quote unquote the right way and just do whatever seems interesting in the moment. Because like there is no breaking the game. It sounds like here, like. You know, maybe Dark Souls is not the best comparison, but you know, you can kill Dark Souls NPCs, but it always feels like I'm breaking something if I do that. You know, it's like I'm probably locking out some story thing or
that's
something.
Right. Yeah,
like I get the sense here that like they, if not encourage you to do things like kill story characters, at least like make it not a wrong option to do so.
Mm-hmm. My initial playthrough in something like this is I want to see as much as I can to not close those gates off. So I will play through with what I feel like gets me into the most content. And then in a game like this, and this is Mass Effect as well, my second playthrough is my shitheel playthrough where, I am going to do the one that just shuts this conversation. It's the Renegade playthrough, right? Where it's like, we're just shutting this conversation down. I've seen the most I can see. And now if I don't like this character, I'm not going to suffer through a conversation or dialogue tree with them. They're just going to die, which again, feels like the Dark Urge is kind of set up for that, of no remorse, hardcore lunatic on the scene. So we'll see. I'm still hitting stuff that's surprising me in the game, which is why I'm reluctant to even talk too much about spoilers, because it's been fun to have reveals happen in the game and to not know if they are specific to my choices or not, or if it's, you get funneled into this path no matter what you picked. It so far feels kind of, natural, which is what I want from this game. And the combat is interesting and difficult and keeps me thinking even on balanced. I haven't found exceptional ways to cheese it. I am not level 5 yet. I am level 4, about to pop into level 5. And I feel like in 5th edition, level 5 is a real precipice point. It's like a real milestone. You got a lot of interesting abilities at level 5, so I'm curious to see where things go. It's also made me had to understand classes I've never played before in D&D, because you get a lot of options, and a lot of a little bit of metagaming with like, how do you do the most damage with this? How do you make this class the most efficient you can? Like, I've never really messed around with warlock classes, so I'm not exactly sure what archetype they fit into. Are they DPS? Are they tank classes? Are they support classes? I know a lot of them, and I've been playing with Will, the warlock class, and I'm really never quite sure where he fits into my party of like, what are you supposed to be doing, dude? You got like 2 spell slots here. Am I supposed to be hexing everyone? Your damage with your sword isn't that great, but you're not a great caster. Trying to figure out exactly how he fits into the group dynamic, because I like the character a lot, so I want him with me. But that stuff has been interesting, where I know what the cleric is supposed to be doing, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I know what my rogue is supposed to be doing. It's, that stuff is interesting. I think they don't specifically, at least, Brad, maybe you saw it, I don't think they specifically call out like, hey, this is a tank class, or like, this is your DPS class, this is your support class.
Yeah, it's seemed much more based on just like what their abilities are.
Yeah, right.
And how that informs a play style.
Right. So that part's interesting. And not everything is neatly tucked into tank DPS and those things. Some things are multi-class. So we'll see. We're going to play on Friday. Alex and I are going to play multiplayer, which has its own weird issues. I've been
has its quirks, it seems
digging
like.
into.
I saw there's like a toggle for private moments in the options. Did you see that?
I saw that. Some people were talking about that. I'm not sure how that manifests.
Private moments.
Basically, there are scenes that only you can or should see. You're basically opting into letting your co-op party see those scenes as well. But I think that's cool. Like it really makes me wonder what the nature of those scenes is that you wouldn't want other players to see them.
I mean, I guess if you're really role playing those, right? If those characters are not there, then they shouldn't know what happened there.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like sex scenes are the obvious and kind of boring answer to that. If it's just like, you just want to keep those moments private, like that makes sense, but is not in terms of a branching story or, like you said, like a role playing.
Yeah.
But if that's your kink, if you want your party there while you're, swinging with, whoever it is that you're swinging with, I think that's an option too, it sounds like. So
yeah,
I should dig into it more, because it might also be as kind of mechanics wise as, look, if you're playing with a party that, people are sensitive or don't want to see nudity or see these things, then put this on and you will, because, there is an option to toggle nudity on and off in the game. So if that stuff is not going to be received well and you want to keep that to yourself, we'll just show you those scenes because you have it turned off or something. So it could be something like that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't mean that those scenes in and of themselves are boring. What I meant was that's the obvious. The obvious answer is what I meant is like intimate scenes that you just wouldn't want other people to see. I meant more. Are there like story reasons, like you said, that you might like be trying to hide information from other.
Could be
characters, or like trying to backstab somebody or some kind of subterfuge or something. I would never.
There is another option there, Brad. I don't know if you saw, it's on by default for karmic dice, which they say, and I had read that this was kind of bugged in early access, but maybe it's fixed now. They say basically, while still trying to keep your dice rolls as random as possible, does a little bit to avoid consistent failures. Like if you're like failing, if it's random, you could fail infinitely, right? Like in a row. And I think it tries to nudge you out of that a bit. And it's on by default. And I kept it on because I feel like it is probably the closest thing in the game to having a DM try to make sure you're having a good time in the game. So I hope it's fixed and I hope it's working properly, because some people said it actually was doing some of the opposite in early access and wasn't working as intended. The other multiplayer thing that I think is a little weird is what I have heard, and from looking stuff up, people aren't even sure if it's a bug or intended. If you start a multiplayer save and you bring someone into your party, they create a new character, they come into your party, that character is always in your party no matter what. So if you go to play single player, they're just dead in your party. Or not there in your party, so you cannot get rid of them in your party forever.
Huh.
That seems a little clunky.
Yeah, so I could be getting. I didn't try it obviously, but this is what I was looking up for Friday's thing of like, if you're gonna have a multiplayer save, it sounds like maybe that is a multiplayer save. Do not look at that as a single player / multiplayer save with maybe the same person or people that you are committed to having this with. I don't know if that changes later on or if you can bring people in and out, but that's what I looked up and seems to be a thing. So, when Abby and Alex and I play, it seems like that save is now locked into them joining in that party. Which I guess the opposite of that would be like, I don't know, put all your friends in your camp, man. Have a cool camp with all your player friends in there hanging out and go check in on them once in a while. But then maybe that's not the case. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to keep moving forward with it, and then probably going to do a second playthrough as that Dark Urge character to check it out. The multiplayer stuff, we'll check more on Friday. We did some in early access. It seems like it has interesting mechanics for multiplayer on voting for dialogue. It seems like it has Twitch integration, which I'll probably turn on for the Friday stream just to test it out, where I forget exactly what happens in it, but I think Twitch can see dice rolls or maybe have some effect or voting.
I saw some on Twitter, some stuff going around about that. You can like click on all the party members of the person who's streaming and like pull up character sheets and click through them. That seems
cool.
Like, you can get a ton of info that's not actually on the stream about their characters and stuff.
Yeah, so that seems cool.
Awesome.
I've got my paladin ready to go for that. My golden dragonborn paladin who just sounds like a real piece of shit. Like, trying to think of if I were going to be a real devout paladin, golden dragonborn sounds like somebody who thinks that their shit don't stink.
Oh, absolutely. That is a real dick bag to have to hang out with.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Look, I like role playing for some of this stuff. It's a role
no. That's what it's for. I'm just saying, it's like, if that's the role you want to play, you found the right character for it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll check that out on Friday. I'm glad you're enjoying it too, Brad. Like my fear when I jumped into it was, I'm really enjoying this. It seems like they do some onboarding and then kind of throw you into the deep end with abilities without explaining exactly how the economy of bonus and action and all these things are going to work out, and spell slots. And I mean, they do some of it, but it's pretty quick. And by the time you look up again, you've got like bars full of actions, right?
Yeah, I could see that. But like I didn't have a lot of trouble with Divinity, so hopefully this is similar. Yeah, it's incredibly intriguing, just like looking at how it's put together and all the ways it can vary. I'm excited to continue poking at it and see how it responds.
I'll say one of the most positive things I've heard are people who have been into Act 2 say it picks up. Like, and I've enjoyed Act 1 so far, so
yeah, it's not exactly like a slow start.
No. I mean, I'm sick of doing the ship stuff. I kind of almost wish I know you make some choices on the ship, so it'd be pretty hard, but I kind of almost wish you could be like, skip ship. But you can get through it very quickly. Also, yeah. I think they changed it and shortened it from the early access, because I remember a whole spot. Do you remember this, Brad? On like, you go on the upper decks with Dave, and like there's like, and you didn't have that either, right?
No, I did not. I was actually shocked how short the ship section was compared to what you guys played a few weeks ago.
Yeah, there's like only one real combat encounter, and then the second combat encounter you can kind of run past if you need to or not. But like that's about it. You just fight those imps, and then you're kind of on your way. So yeah, it seems like they shortened that up even. So which is good because that ship stuff I've seen that a lot.
Yeah. It seems like a fascinating game. I'm excited to get more into it. Also, I'm not a big tabletop player, but it's nice to remember all those Forgotten Realms books I read when I was 14. You know, like I've got that background at least, so there's like something cool there as well.
Will they reference Drizzt? I don't know.
Right.
I have just entered the Underdark, so yes. So
is Elminster going to show up at some point? Is he still alive? I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure where this timeline takes place. If it's later, I think it's pretty late because I think it's after the Avernus stuff. So, I don't know. But yes, it is all in Forgotten Realms, for better or worse. I'm playing an Eberron campaign, and Eberron seems like a interesting world as well. But Forgotten Realms, Faerun, have at it. Baldur's Gate 3, out now, about a month off on the PlayStation 5, Xbox TBD on that one. Brad, you mentioned this like a week or two ago about them having the technical issues for split screens co-op on the S, and since they need to have feature parity across the Xbox platforms, they are trying to solve that problem, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, sounds like Xbox might be a ways off.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, split screen co-op sounds kind of like a neat thing. There is no split screen co-op on the PC, as far as I can tell. There's only you can do LAN if you have stuff on your local network, but I don't think stuff on the same system. So I'm looking forward to that too, because I would like to play with my kids on a save. All right, that's Baldur's Gate 3. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a few more video games. We'll have a little short interlude with some more stuff. It's not just Baldur's Gate 3. So stick around. We'll be right back. This week's show is brought to you by Factor. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro.
Yes, Vinny.
I love food.
Yeah, you do.
I have a stomach. I too.
I enjoy eating. Factor delivered me a giant box of food that was delicious. And smoothies.
Were they also delicious?
They were pretty good.
All right.
I've gone through a couple of these meals already. I'm sure this is what Factor would love to hear, so I'm just gonna say it because I feel like this is what happened. They were quick to set up. I took them out of the fridge, got them. I did them in the toaster oven, and in about 7 or 8 minutes, they were ready to go, and they were delicious. You can level up with Factor's Gourmet Plus options, prepared to perfection by chefs and ready to eat in record time. Treat yourself to upscale meals with premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus. Ooh, so fancy. They also have calorie-conscious options. You can try delicious dietitian-approved Calorie Smart meals with around or fewer than 550 calories per serving. And with Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions. They source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. You can head to factormeals.com/Nextlander50 and use code Nextlander50 to get 50% off. That's code Nextlander50 at factormeals.com/Nextlander50 to get 50% off. They have an exclamation point, and I'm exclaiming it.
It's like half.
That's like half. Thanks, Factor. And we are back and moving on from fantasy realms to fantasy bookings. Is that work? Can I
I'll allow it.
Okay, good.
I'm allowing it.
Okay, great.
It's definitely another type of fantasy world.
Indeed.
Alex, we're talking about WrestleQuest.
We sure are. The game that was supposed to already be out, but due to let's just say unforeseen circumstances, is not. apparently there was a save bug that they found very, like, literally up to the wire in terms of, like, when you could have possibly discovered this. So they had wrestlers that are in this game out there doing promotions for the game literally the day before, or the day they announced the delay, which was the day before the release.
That's a bummer.
It was the day before the release that they announced the delay? Jeez.
Yes, it was literally, like, Jeff Jarrett was on fucking Kinda Funny talking about game's out tomorrow, and then it sure isn't.
Good on them for not putting it out there in a way that could be very crappy for people who run into that bug.
Oh, absolutely. And let me tell you right now, it's not that I don't think there is justification in doing it. There absolutely is. It's just kind of a wild thing to have to do that close and that up to the wire. Especially considering this game, despite its best intentions and some aspects that I like, is definitely a little bit janky in a way that I don't love.
Can you give me the top level on WrestleQuest again? I think we might have talked about it previously, but
the top level is very top heavy, so I'm just going to give you the warning of that right now. So this is a game, it is an RPG in the style of, I'm going to say, the classics of the 16-bit era, especially the slightly goofier, more irreverent ones. It is a turn-based game. It is, pixel art graphics. So that's the base. And then from there, the premise they are going with is, it's not just that it is a wrestling world and that you are doing your quest in a wrestling world. It's that you are playing as action figures in a toy box, Toy Story style world that in which there's presumably the person who owns all these toys just has a real predilection for wrestling.
Okay, Dan Reichert's Toy Box.
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
You are playing as a couple of different characters here, one of which is a Macho Man Randy Savage stand-in. The other one is sort of a Bret Hart, Hart family stand-in.
Okay.
And there are a bunch of characters in here that are definitely just straight-up parodies of characters and gimmicks that you already know. But there are also appearances in here by actual licensed wrestlers. Weirdly enough, Randy Savage is one of them. And he's dead, so they got a voice sound alike, but then they got other wrestlers who are not dead.
Okay.
Like Jake the Snake Roberts and Jeff Jarrett. I saw the Nasty Boys are in there somewhere, Legion of Doom. And they do their voice samples, though I will say a lot of their voice work sounds like placeholder. It is that sort of like, I'm yelling out a bark thing. It is not like they have like full dialogue, you know?
So maybe that's the only mode they know how to operate in.
Distinctly possible. And so you are kind of wandering around this world. You are trying to, gain fame and acclaim. And it is, like there's different zones that you go into that all kind of have their own like discrete, not necessarily puzzles, but like navigation elements. There are random battles against various fighters on the field.
Are they like no-namers? Like
it's just like RPG enemies. Like,
okay.
It's not necessarily. There probably are big matches against certain wrestlers. I haven't really gotten any of those yet. But what I have found is that so the combat is all turn-based, as I sort of alluded to. It is how do I describe this? Like, you can have a team of multiple wrestlers. Sometimes you're fighting by yourself. You usually get a handful of goons that you're fighting against. You have 4 different things you can do in a battle. You can just strike a dude. You can taunt, which gives you like some bonuses, but also maybe gives you some like, hey, you have reduced defense for this next turn.
Okay.
You can use items, and then there are the gimmicks, which are your special abilities. You start out with a couple. You earn more as you level up. There are certain ones and there's like class styles that you can apply to your character. Mine's a powerhouse. So he gets extra hype, which is sort of one of the big, like, kind of building meters in the game, by defeating enemies but not pinning them. So you can just take an enemy's health down and knock them down, or if it's a particular enemy type or a certain match type, you can pin them. And then there's a little mini game that props up that's just sort of like you have to hit the green bars it's moving around, and then you get the 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
All the attacks are to some degree quick time events. Occasionally they are just like regular, like you just hit the attack and it just goes. But like if there is any kind of like rebound attack or anything like that, you have to do some kind of quick time around that. it's very heavy on that stuff.
That's like the Mario RPG, Mario and Luigi standard.
Definitely.
Like that's cool. Like that made those games more fun to grind through the random battles when you actually had timing elements to keep up with.
Totally. And there's aspects of this that I think are kind of fun. The problem I'm running into in, let's say, the first, 5 hours of this game is that I'm finding a lot of it very repetitive. And some of that is just kind of part and parcel with the whole, like, you are playing this style of RPG. It's not like those didn't have repetitive random battles and things like that. But I just haven't found the combat to be that compelling. It just kind of feels like it's a little one note. And while there's a lot of personality in the graphics, I don't think the story is that interesting or really that worth investing in, at least from what I've played so far.
Does your character know they are a toy? Do all the characters know they're toys?
It feels self-aware, though. Like, what degree of do they know they are in a toy box? I don't know. They just sort of refer to themselves, as toys. Matter of factly, you can also interchange parts at times. Like, I put on a different hand, or I grabbed an item that was like a hammer hand at some point.
That seems all right.
Yeah, so like it's kind of playing around with that stuff, but I just don't think it's really that good. It's not terrible, but it's just kind of like a lot of my time with it has just been kind of like, all right, yeah, this is fun enough, but it's not really grabbing me.
Okay.
Despite the fact that it is several things that are very much in my wheelhouse, it's just something about this combination is not quite doing it for me.
Do you know what the price is going to be since it got delayed? None of the storefronts have a price up at the moment.
I think I remember seeing it was like $25. I'll double check. But I don't think it's like super expensive or anything.
What does it say to you about the state of licensing famous wrestling figures? That there's nothing against this game, but it's a smaller scale game. It looks like it's an indie game.
Yeah.
Like I would have thought, Andre the Giant, Sergeant Slaughter, Randy Savage, obviously, like I would have thought those would be pretty expensive names to get, but like does that kind of wrestling notoriety not command the respect that it once did?
Well, so it's interesting because so there's a weird dynamic of this that I don't fully understand, which is to say that wrestling and like a lot of these wrestlers in particular have Legends contracts with WWE. Oh. And what that means is that they basically have an ongoing licensing agreement with them where they can use them in things like video games and promotional materials, and they get like I'm pretty sure a regular payment based on that stuff.
I see. Okay.
I don't know what level of exclusivity that stuff comes with, but I guess not much, because obviously there are a lot of wrestlers that have those contracts that are in fact in this game. But in terms of like what their actual rates for appearance are or for likeness rights or anything like that, I don't know. There are a couple of these gimmicks that I thought WWE actually owned the names for, but maybe they're able to use that stuff at like conventions and whatnot, so I'm not sure.
Like the moves?
Well, not the moves, but like they're like the names, like literally Legion of Doom or stuff like that. I don't know what. Maybe as part of the Legends contracts, they're allowed to use that stuff outside of WWE. I don't know, but I would have assumed it looks like they spent a little bit money on these licenses. They did not spend a lot of time getting them in the booth to do voice work, though. I will say that.
How is the sound alike for Macho Man?
Fine.
Because there are a lot of macho men.
Yes. It's just, I don't know, like, it's just a little weird hearing a fake Macho Man when he's dead. I mean,
Sure.
They're, one of the Legion of Doom members, I think maybe both of them are dead. One of them is definitely dead. There's only so much you can do with people who have passed on. It's just like, I don't know, there's something, like, I understand you're paying a tribute, you want to celebrate these characters that you loved. Something a little weird about it to me, but I think they have pretty good intentions here, by and large. But again, they are also making a very childish, very kind of like whimsical story about a hive of scum and villainy, which is wrestling. This is not a fun, frivolous place full of people who are happy and doing well.
I'm about halfway through that Vince McMahon podcast series at this point, and the more information I consume about wrestling, the darker it all gets.
Yeah.
to the point that I'm almost at the point now where I'm like, should this be celebrated? I mean, like I'm not going to quite
should
go
it be
that
banned?
far.
No, but yes, should it be celebrated? Absolutely not.
Like, I mean, one of the running themes of all of this is that like wrestlers don't live to old age very often.
So that has changed a little bit. I mean, not with these guys that they are featuring in this game, but like the current generation, by and large, is doing a lot better health-wise and taking care of themselves-wise.
Okay, that's
not every single one, obviously, but like the number of people you are seeing, get felled by drug habits and like serious addiction problems and other things, it's lower than it used to be.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I'm getting the sense that the current WWE like pay and benefits are embarrassing, abysmal, inadequate, healthcare and stuff like that.
They still give the biggest contracts of any wrestling league out there. Like AEW is pretty good, but my understanding is they do not give out like the big gigantic contracts very often. But like and all wrestlers in the US are independent contractors. Like there really aren't like staffs and like permanent employee status for wrestlers in the US. And so, you end up in a situation where, like a lot of these people, even if they are being paid a fair amount of money, they're also being forced to, pay for their own health care and deal with a lot of other things that they wouldn't if they were full-time employees.
Right.
Not that any of this has to do with WrestleQuest, but I mean, it is kind of the state of the business.
Yeah. I looked up the developer. They did that Renfield game, that recent...
they did.
Renfield, Bring Your Own Blood, which was kind of a Vampire Survivors like, right?
Yes, a game I liked less the more I played of it, but that I thought was okay out of the gate.
Well, best of luck to them on squashing that bug. They delayed it a couple of weeks here. I think
it's now August 22nd, and I double-checked to make sure they didn't change the embargo so I could talk about this here. And as far as I can tell, they haven't. So
okay.
I don't think I'm breaking any laws here.
Yeah. Hope best of luck to them, and I hope they get their game out, because that's a rough one to get in the 11th hour,
Oh, totally.
Like, I honestly can't even imagine.
Oh, I wonder if it has to resubmit certification. That's why,
like the long delay,
like the exact 2-week delay. I may be totally off base, but I wonder if that has something to do with it being an extra 2 weeks. That a bug that severe, you got to go back through.
I wonder
certification again.
I wonder if they were able to squash it quickly, if they would have just hot fixed it, after release. But maybe it's something they just want to make sure, or maybe it's harder. I have no idea.
They did put out one patch while I've been, playing along with this review build. It didn't necessarily fix all the stuff that I've been running into. There's just some stuff in this game, like it crashed. Like I get an error crash message every time I close the app, which is weird. There's also some stuff around like saving that I think is not great. Like I ended up in one situation where, I was going through an environment that had like a trap in it, and right as I was getting away from the trap, I ended up in a random battle. And then when I popped out of there, I moved out of the app for a second, and I realized I'd been standing in that trap the whole time, and I just died. And then I lost a bunch of progress, just not because I didn't realize I was just standing there. And it's just kind of like, it's just little stuff like, I wish it auto-saved a little more. I wish it was a little more diligent about that stuff.
Well, maybe they'll while they're in there, they'll clean some other stuff up. Come in a little hot, you said, in before release, pre-release. That's WrestleQuest, August 22nd now, kind of on everything. At least everything's listed here. So, again, this also has a Netflix logo on the official page. I don't know in what capacity that integrates with any Netflix stuff, because it kind of doesn't say on their official page, or at least not that I saw.
I assume that's probably mobile related more than anything else.
Right, yeah. Next up, let's talk a little more Remnant. Brad, you've dug in a little more on the single player side of Remnant.
I continue to be impressed as hell with Remnant 2, and also have been failing to resist playing more of it on my own outside of our streams.
You're bringing stuff in, helping the group.
Hey, I got a cool new weapon mod this morning that I'm excited to show you. I mean, it's nice the way the campaign progress works, because I'm not even necessarily seeing the same stuff. Well, first of all, I'm behind where we are in my story and my campaign where we are in Alex's.
Yeah.
So I'm not even as far as us in our stream playthrough. But also I'm seeing different stuff because of the way that game works. I mean, we've talked about it before, right? Like I think it's 2 versions of everything is the intel that we got.
Okay.
That like every given area you might get one of any 2 bosses. Like each boss like slot could be one boss or the other. And
you just will not see that other one on that playthrough?
So we unlocked that adventure mode on Monday, or was it Monday? Yes, Monday. And looking at that, I was looking at that in my game. It seems like you finish an area and then it unlocks adventure mode for that area, and then you can essentially roll a whole separate campaign for just that area. And the description on it is straight up like, hey, you need to fight a specific boss or do a specific quest, like start an adventure mode here. And I don't know if it lets you pick. I should have started one. I was worried it would like mess with my campaign progress, but the wording almost made it sound like you could pick which version of the boss to fight on an adventure run.
Like if you want to farm a material,
crafting material. Like you're missing out on specific items and abilities by only getting one or the other.
Well, the other nice thing too, and I almost felt the urge, not necessarily from the combat side of things, but just more the narrative side. Like there is a story in this game that I'm not really absorbing when we're playing multiplayer, because that's not the best way for me to absorb, as you guys would probably agree, any narrative content.
What are you talking about? The text is right there on the screen.
It's right there on the screen. Hey, you guys mind if I sit here while I go through every dialogue option with this NPC for about 15 minutes?
Yes. I do. Also don't say anything while I'm reading.
Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just absolute silence. So I almost wanted to just run back in and be like, I want to talk to everyone. I kind of want to I want to read these books that we're coming across that have pages and pages of descriptive text in them. So but I have not started yet, but I did want to ask you, how was your boss that you fought?
It took about half an hour, probably took 8-10 tries or something. It was not easy, but
different.
A very different boss, an extremely different boss.
So we had, what was it, like evil empathy or something? Empathy?
Empathy was that first boss, yeah.
I forgot to look at what the name of this boss was.
Spite or something, that was the second one?
Yeah.
This was maybe not your favorite type of boss because it spawned a lot of ads constantly around. Well, actually, the other one did too. Maybe they all do that now that I think about it.
Was it a different arena?
Totally different. Like even the sequence leading up to it was completely different than what we saw before.
Okay.
Like we did that puzzle dungeon, right? The first time?
Yeah.
The dial and the shrouds and all that stuff. Yeah. So where I went after that side dungeon, like it was underground. It had different looking stuff in it.
Okay, so a different world.
We were in more of a forest part of Alex's campaign.
Yeah.
So like I was seeing new scenery. I mean, somewhat new scenery. It was still the same like aesthetic, but different elements than I had seen before. Some like crazy underground big crystal formations and cool stuff like that. And then the boss was a totally different arena, totally different boss, totally like the design completely different. Then the weapon mod I got is kind of made from the boss. Like, I can't remember. Oh, the one we got on Monday is the same thing, right? Because that boss attacked with tentacles coming out of the water, and then the mod we got made tentacles come out of the ground. So it's another thing like that. It's kind of it's almost the Monster Hunter satisfaction of I killed a hard thing, and now I've taken a piece of it and fashioned it into something for me to use.
A little Mega Man-ish.
Yes.
Like the one we got from Empathy, who would go up and smash those platforms, is the one we got the Thunder Wave one.
Oh, that's right. That's yes.
So what is it?
Oh, it's so this boss. It's complicated. This boss had a big like evil eye looking thing hovering over it, and that was its only weak point. Except that most of 90% of the time, it took like no damage, like 10 damage per shot or whatever.
Okay,
but it would go into a vulnerable state where it was also spawning enemies all over the place, shooting these projectiles at you that cause madness, which I have not seen yet.
What does that do?
It makes your vision go all nuts. You can't see anything. It turns the UI off, so you can't see your health or anything.
Okay.
So you have to dodge those slow-moving madness projectiles, but then it would also spawn a big energy wave at the same time.
All while you're supposed to hit the vulnerable part?
While you're trying to hit it while it's vulnerable, and also deal with the enemies that's spawning around you. It was a lot to keep up with. But
okay.
Anyway, the ability is that floating eye thing that would fly around the arena that I had to shoot.
What does it do?
It's like literally an evil eye that drops. I think it drops stacks of madness on enemies.
Ooh. Oh.
So I'm really curious to see what that does.
Yeah, I wonder what the AI does when it is maddened.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But madness is a thing you rack up like the
blights,
rot, the root rot. Right. or bleed. You know, that's the Dark Souls thing of like, oh, you better not fill up this meter or you're going to get the effect, and that's really going to suck.
Yeah. That's cool. Man, that game is really neat.
Yeah, I am super into it. I like it more than the first one.
I do as well. I think there's something also about the I think I mentioned this last time we talked about it, but there's something more about the role, and I mean that not role playing, but the role you play in the game feeling very integral, you know?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you are clearly a damage dealer. Like, get in there. Like, I know what my job is in a fight, right? It's like try and do some damage, but keep you guys alive. And even that weird mod on the gun where you shoot health has become kind of fun in a way because I have to lead you guys. Like, you're gonna run into this puddle of health. Hopefully, it's neat.
Like the weapon mods actually are hugely game changing. Like on that boss, I had to change my set of mods like 3 times, trying different strategies. You know, it's like maybe I'll drop the tentacles to try to get some health back from these ads, or maybe I'll use fire here to try to put some damage over time on this thing.
Did you wind up like so you brought your stuff that you had from our playthrough, and so you had that like 5 talisman ring, right?
Yes.
Amulet?
Yeah. So they I saw some tooltip text. They seem to want to go out of their way to reassure you that you will never lose any character progress for any reason, because
cool.
Because you can start that adventure mode in an area you've completed, like I said. You can also reroll your campaign, which totally resets you to the beginning of the game. Like you have to go through everything again, but you might get, because the different areas you play through, the order is randomized, so you might even start with a different area in a rerolled campaign. But in all those like tool tips, as you click those things, it always says like character progress will never be reset.
I assume it's scaling to your level or within your level.
Yeah, it's like hashing that kind of like Destiny style power level on your character that I think it's then tuning the world against.
I wonder if it's dynamically doing that or what, because if you roll your world, go off and do a bunch of stuff in somebody else's game and come back, I assume it would readjust the character levels to now match your new level and not just lock it in.
Yeah, that's my assumption, but I'm not sure.
It's not really a loot game, but you do get, it's not a loot game. You kind of get fixed loot, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really just liking it in terms of especially on the multiplayer side, the dynamic with the team seems a lot of fun with 3 people.
Especially, you guys haven't gotten your second class, have you, yet?
No. I did get mine.
Yeah, I took it when you got it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we all did. Yeah, I guess we've only all got access to Hunter right now as the second class, but like, seems like eventually you'll just be able to mix and match any 2 classes in the game, which is also kind of an amazing way to find abilities that synergize together. Yeah,
and then wanting to double down on 1 or multi-class into 2 with your XP. It's an interesting diversionary build tactic. I don't mean diversion it's a diversion in a, hey, you went left, I went right, and now we have different characters. Cool. Remnant 2.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. I'm super impressed with it.
Remnant 2 out there now.
The last thing I just wanted to mention, shout out to the heavy enemy that throws his weak point at you.
The guy who throws the heart.
Yeah, like that was the other thing I just meant to. I have to give them credit. There are some interesting ideas in that game that I have not seen before. Like that, like one of the heavy enemies. He basically throws a grenade at you, like a sticky grenade. Yeah. It took us forever to figure out why he was not taking any damage.
Yes.
As we shot him, as we were trying to avoid this grenade he keeps throwing at you, turns out it's his heart, and it both explodes and kills you, but also is the weak point.
It's very clever.
So it's like a super interesting loop of you don't know where the weak point's going to end up, and you have to try to put some damage on it before it explodes over and over.
Remnant 2, you're going to be Remnant 2 out of it for a little bit.
Yes, a couple weeks. We will have to take a pause on that, unfortunately.
I want to touch on a game real quick here. We showed it last week. We haven't talked about it on the podcast. The Expanse, the Telltale series game. I've played not a ton of it. Actually, probably for one of these games, it's hard to tell how long they are, so I'm not sure how much I've played. But I've actually really liked it so far. It's very much the next generation of the Telltale games. You could see it there. It's more solid. It seems a little more put together than the later Telltale games, where it felt like it was stretching what that engine could do. And this feels like they have addressed and modernized those issues. And I'm not a huge The Expanse person. I know there's a very popular series, but it seems to be telling a pretty interesting story so far. The setup, like you guys saw when we went through it, the kind of go on this ship and suddenly everything was not good on this ship. And you know, it's a good storytelling technique of what happened here. Why is this? What is going on here? So I'm probably going to continue with that if I can peel myself away from Baldur's Gate long enough to continue with it. But The Expanse, a Telltale series, the first episode is out. They have a cadence for their next stuff. So I very much could be halfway through that episode for all I know. I feel
like I saw somebody in our Twitch chat saying that they made the whole game up front this time.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I could be wrong. I thought that was my understanding, that they'll have a more predictable release cadence, because that reminded me of, like, was it the first season of Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Or like some of their episodic games, like the stretches between episode releases got kind of lengthy and unpredictable at some point.
Oh gosh, I want to say, what was the Wolf one?
Wolf Among Us.
I want to say Wolf Among Us maybe had one of the ones that like had a long time between
episodes.
If
I remember correctly, they never made a second season of that.
They just dropped it.
Well, no, it's that they're now making that now.
Oh, wait, is that coming back?
I believe, if I remember correctly, Wolf Among Us 2 is one of the things they said they were bringing back. They were spinning back up when this new version of the studio came around.
I'm just going to read from their FAQ here for a second, not about Wolf Among Us, but about this the Expanse. They say, our new games are episodic, but there's one huge difference. We've changed how we're developing games on the back end, so we can release seasons much quicker than in the past. We can guarantee that the remaining episodes will launch every 2 weeks after episode 1.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if that means if they do have the things ready to go, but they say guarantee here.
Yeah. In fact, you said only episode 1 is out still as of right now, right?
I haven't checked back since last week. It came out July 27th, so we probably should be about the next episode. I can go see. So
IGN has a review of episodes 1 through 3 up now.
Okay.
So they definitely have the content ready to go already. That's cool. That's smart. Every 2 weeks feels like a good cadence for something like this.
Episode 2, Hunting Grounds, is supposed to be, according to the Epic Game Store, available August 10th. So as of time of this recording, that's the end of this week, or tomorrow actually. So and then the 24th, the September 7th, and September 21st. So yeah, let's see. I mean, see how they do. Again, I would like to play that game, but I got Baldur's Gated.
Yes.
Knew it was going to happen. Same thing happened. I'll just say quickly here with Pikmin. I've been dabbling a little bit more in Pikmin, but not a lot. And I'm kind of in mop-up land on Pikmin. We talked about it when Jordan Miner was here.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of saw the initial credits, but that sounds like it's halfway through the game.
You saw credits. You can walk away with your head held high. You can just tell yourself, I finished it. I saw credits. I'm good.
Right.
It counts.
Mission complete. But it sounds like, to me, it seems like, hey, you saw the game loop. Are you ready to just keep doing that? You could stop if you want. We'll allow it. But that is Pikmin 4, a game I also am enjoying and think is pretty neat. Anything else you guys want to talk about game-wise before we jump into some of the news here? Alex, you saw some Evo stuff, but I think we're gonna get to that when we hit the news. So we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk some news. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Alex Navarro, I love packages.
I mean, I get them all the time. It's always an exciting time when a box arrives at your door.
It is always an exciting time. Sometimes they open that box and it's from Bespoke Post, and inside that box, like this week, is a knife. It's a thing I can use when I need to cut things. I think this one, I've gotten more than a few knives from Bespoke Post.
Are you trying to say that when you get a knife, the thing you need to do with a knife is knife?
I might have gotten around to said that in a shorter way. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
This one was specifically a fishing knife, which means it's got all the things you need to fillet a fish, let's say, or field dress a fish. Bespoke Post puts together a box of awesome. And the things inside that box range from whiskey glasses, which I've gotten incense things that I still have and use in my bathroom, and sometimes, occasionally, a knife that'll go inside a kit that is themed. Because, Alex Navarro, you take a quiz at boxofawesome.com. Your answers will help them pick the right Box of Awesome for you. They release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories, and each box is valued at around $70, but you're only going to pay a fraction of that price. This is one of my favorite parts, Alex. With each Box of Awesome, you're supporting small businesses. 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is from a small, up-and-coming brand. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel at any time. To get 20% off your first monthly box, sign up at boxofawesome.com and enter the code Nextlander at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander for 20% off your first box. Boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander. Thanks, Bespoke Post. All right, we are back. We are back. I don't have a segue into this one.
You just woke my ass up, man.
We are back, and Red Dead Redemption is getting a release.
Finally.
Finally coming to the PS4. Brad Shoemaker.
Finally getting a re-release. Red Dead Redemption.
What is going on?
One of the best games of the generation.
Which generation?
The one it came out in?
It's the 360 PS3.
Okay, great.
I would say. I mean, I don't know if you have been aware, people have been clamoring for this game to come out again for a very long time.
Especially on PC.
Yes, people have wanted a PC release of this basically since it came out in 2010. And then there's also been persistent rumors / wish casting about a remake, like a full remaster type thing.
I'm sure people would love a bundle with Red Dead and Red Dead 2 on the PS5 would be amazing, or Xbox Series X.
I mean, when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out and they had modeled all of the terrain, like all of the land from the first game in the second game, it got people talking pretty much immediately, like, what are their plans here? What are their intentions? It turns out their intentions were to try to make a lot of money with Red Dead Online. And give you a lot of space to roam around in. But anyway, the idea of remaking the first game in the second game's engine and assets, obviously not happening. This is just a re-release on the Switch and PS4.
Amazing.
Soon. The 17th of August, just kind of came out of nowhere this week.
Still no PC version.
Still no PC version. Also, notably, no Xbox re-release here, which my first reaction was, well, it's one of those like nicely enhanced games already with the backwards compatibility. Like it runs at 4K and a locked 30 on a current Xbox already if you just buy the original version.
Yeah.
So maybe they felt they didn't need to do that, or the way less flattering for Microsoft take is maybe the install base is not there for Rockstar to feel it was worth a port. I don't know.
But worth a port to the PS4 and Switch, which, I mean, look, the Switch, those are both consoles that have fairly sizable install bases. They are not the latest, greatest.
No. But if it's just a port, a PS4 game will run just fine on a PS5 if they weren't planning to do the work anyway.
Yeah.
And then maybe the Switch version will run on a new piece of Nintendo hardware in the next year or so. Who can say?
Who can say?
Look at you.
Actually, this is kind of tangential to this, but Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, was out there on, I don't know, some interview or something, earnings something, all but saying, hey, Nintendo should make the next Switch backwards compatible.
Even
good.
Everybody agrees.
Strauss and I don't agree on a lot of things. Yeah. We do agree on this.
Yes, he said the very un-CEO like thing of basically he flat out said kind of what I said last week about you might make more money in the short term reselling your old games. At what cost, basically, is what he was saying. Basically, it was just how much damage to your relationship with your consumers are you going to do Every time, like if you have the technical capability and you don't do it for business reasons, and people get mad because they're having to buy the same games again, like that's not good long term.
No.
Anyway, Red Dead Redemption coming out again, finally.
Sure.
On PS4.
Yes, PS4 and Switch. I am curious. I doubt there will be that much notable there in terms of like how it runs, since they're not doing anything to it. It's pretty much just a question of, does it run well? Yes. Okay, great.
No 4K 60,
no
and no online, according to this article on Kotaku.
Yes.
So you do get Undead Nightmare, which yes, you should do that.
Yes, Undead Nightmare is incredible.
Yeah. So I don't know. This doesn't make me too excited, but
no, it's good. Is I guess my take is like, yes, this needed to happen. It's good that this is happening.
It took a very long time. We are a generation basically past the PS4, so it's kind of weird. But no hint at anything on PS5 or Xbox Series X or S, which I think is really where the red meat would be, right? Of like, oh my gosh, you're putting these out on modern consoles or PC, like you said, Alex. Red Dead. If you didn't catch it 10 years ago, it's a great game. It's a fantastic game.
Fantastic. Some of Rockstar's best work.
Brad, what do you say? Red Dead 2 or Red Dead? Different games?
Gosh. Oh, they're similar enough.
Okay. So
I think I'd have to... 2's got some fat on it that is unfortunate.
Okay.
Like the whole trip to what I forget which island they end up on.
Oh yeah, that whole section is a mess.
That whole sequence on that island feels so completely unnecessary. But a better game overall, I think.
Okay.
No, definitely, absolutely.
Red Dead 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I never finished that game.
Oh man,
I know.
It's a weird game because it seems like it should be over and then it goes and goes and goes.
I mean, Red Dead, if people are getting into Red Dead 1, I don't want to have any 10-year-old spoilers, but that game also had an interesting at the time epilogue.
Yeah, so they took that concept and did you get to...
I heard a lot about it because we talked a lot about it in the Game of the Year stuff, so I very much heard about
the epilogue.
Yeah.
Epilogue in 2 is almost as long as some games. It's weird.
Let's move on to the Square Enix dilemma.
I'm sorry, real quick. Did we say $50? We didn't.
I don't know if we said the price.
Yeah, $50. We should mention. So not exactly discounted, really.
No. No, that's right in line with $60 PS4-ish pricing.
Yeah,
maybe not $70 PS5 Xbox.
A little bit cheaper than when it came out, but not really.
Brad, what is going on with poor old Square Enix? Will somebody think of Square Enix?
I try not to.
Another year, another Square Enix game that did not meet Square Enix's sales expectations. I mean that's a bit overblown here. But they did say in an earnings report that this has been sort of tough to chase down because I think maybe something got lost in translation a bit here because multiple reporters on Twitter were talking about this, and one of them had tweeted about what was said at the earnings report, but then later went on to say that it had been kind of a poor choice of words and that they weren't disappointed so much as what seemed to get clarified was that Square had a range of expectations for Final Fantasy XVI. Have I even said what game this is about yet?
We have not said yet.
No.
Yes.
Final Fantasy XVI.
Yes.
The 16th Final Fantasy.
Of course.
It sounds like the consensus that people landed on was that they had a range of sales expectations and that it did not meet the upper end of those expectations, but it still was in the range. It cleared the bar for one of their ranges. Yes, it cleared the lower bound of what they were hoping it would do, but did not go much beyond that from the sound of things.
About as confusingly worded a clarification as you can get, but yes, that I do understand what they are trying to say.
Yes, but their share price dropped pretty significantly on that news.
Are the numbers here correct? Because in this Video Games Chronicle story, they say though they have their revenue intake has been up about 14%, their profits are down 65%. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I think there's probably more context we don't have there.
Okay.
Around why that might be the case.
Did they what are they doing with the Final Fantasy remake stuff that is costing so much?
I think I saw.
Did they acquire somebody?
No, I don't. I lack the business vocabulary to really explain this, but I think I saw that like they wrote off. I don't know what the term is. That like all of the cost of Final Fantasy 16 was accounted for in Q1's earnings, I believe, or something along those lines. Essentially, they absorbed the entire cost of making that game up front, which probably. Okay. So not like amortized or whatever over time. Yeah. Again, I can't quite elaborate on that, but that was the impression that I got.
Okay.
Anyway, like it, I think the game did fine. It did not like blow the doors off in a way that they maybe would have hoped, but like honestly though, like there are numbers in this story. It sold about 3 million in the first week, which is not that far behind the Final Fantasy VII remake. So that's not that bad.
No, people would, developers would love to have that.
That Final Fantasy VII remake did 3.5. So it is hardly some abject failure.
No.
But again, the thing with Square Enix and repeatedly is that they come up with these expectations and we have no idea what they are actually basing these on, whether it's reality or not, because it feels like every single goddamn thing they put out, with the exception of Final Fantasy Remake, has been like, didn't quite hit what we were hoping.
It does feel like an oft-repeated story.
Yeah, and I don't, it's, we are not a business podcast, so whether their stock price going down a bit or more than a bit is indicative of any kind of trouble. I couldn't say personally.
No.
I haven't followed their stock price.
I don't think they're in trouble.
Yeah.
I just think
share price. Yeah. Share price is always just runs on emotion.
Yeah.
Investors are just irrational human beings, and
just like Final Fantasy characters.
But again, it's not that I think they're in trouble or anything. It's more that just like it feels like the leadership there has these absolutely lofty expectations that seem to just beam in out of a reality that is not the thing that keeps happening to them. So I just don't know, like, okay, well, who do you talk to about changing these expectations? Because this keeps happening. And it's now apparently it's not just your Western studios because you don't have any more of those. So you can't blame them for this shit anymore.
I don't know. From scuttlebutt and anecdotally, this sounds like a pretty good Final Fantasy game. People, if not bloated in some parts.
It's good. It's good. I am still slowly making my way through it. I am going to finish it. I was hoping to finish it before I leave for a couple weeks, but I'll have to get back to it when I get back. There is just, too much busy work in that thing. People who have played it will know, like, the number of times it feels like they just send you back to Martha's Rest on another errand. I quite literally had to go back to Martha's Rest for like the 4th time recently to hire a carpenter.
Okay.
Literally. Go there, do like one fight, go talk to the carpenter and ask if he'll come help you, and then go back. It's like,
wait, what's it called again? What Rest?
Martha's Rest. It's just a village. It's just one of the towns in the game.
Okay,
but it just for whatever reason is well, there are characters there who are relevant to the story, but it's just like it's just an example I'm trying to give that people will probably identify with who have played the game of just like, I came through here and did like the heavy story stuff 10 hours ago or something, but it's just like every time there's a lull between these big crazy boss fights or big story beats, it's just like, go run another errand for 30 minutes that probably did not need to be actual gameplay.
Too much MMO in my non-MMO.
It very much feels like that. I do want to see where the story goes though, but
Square Enix, what you got going on? Let's talk about who knows. Let's talk about Microsoft and their move, their relationship with Right to Repair. Brad Shoemaker, you put the story in here about them now selling parts for
this is just like a way to go, because I think, we talked about this when they announced it like a year ago or something. I don't remember when they put out that release saying like, hey, we're going to start selling repair parts because we have to. Or
first they were investigating it, right? They said they were going to we're going to look into this. We've got a committee to look into this.
I misspoke. They didn't have to, but it seemed like they might end up having to. Yeah, the legislation has not happened yet, but there seems to be more and more momentum for this kind of thing. So they are now selling repair parts for controllers. I think it's just controllers so far.
That's what at least is on their store.
Yeah, but it's kind of everything, It's like button sets, it's PCBs it's like you can get the input PCB or the PCB and motor assembly for the actual controller for like the rumble and stuff here. And then the other reason I put this in here is they put up like pretty good teardown videos about how to do this stuff. Like that was the thing I kind of, in fact, I think that was something that people who are big advocates for this kind of thing were worried about when companies like Microsoft started talking about doing this. It's like, are they going to throw it up on some hard to find webpage with no instructions and just like leave people their own devices? Because that's like barely useful to people if you just sell them expensive parts with no idea of what to do with them. But I scrubbed through, they have like a nice 15-minute teardown video of like, here are the tools you're going to need to open up this controller. Here's like where to insert the pry tool to get it open. Like it's like pretty
nice shots, nice camera work.
Yeah.
The thing I'll say for my 2 cents here, and I'm very happy they're doing this, especially given the ESA's stance on this stuff and how Microsoft is a pretty big player with the ESA, and
and the ESA is definitely not into this kind of thing.
Not into it, and I am way into it. They are currently doing the Elite controller and the regular Xbox controller, the kind of the newer Xbox controller. I assume it's the new Bluetooth one. They do not sell, and the thing that I think personally, and other people might not have these problems, but it's controller drift. It's the analog sticks and controller drift of what I've had to go and repair on these. So they sell for $35 the regular Xbox controller PCB 2 analog stick parts on there, and the buttons, right? And I'm sorry, and the force feedback motors, right? Those are part of it. They sell that as $135 assembly, which is fine because there's no soldering. Everything's already wired in, pre-assembled, and so the videos they have show them take that PCB out with everything out attached and put it back in. I think I would like to get more granular and just be able to put in, like I'm okay, comfortable soldering in the analog sticks. I just want OEM analog stick replacements, and I'll do that work. Sell them to me for like $5. That's what I would want. This is definitely a step in the right direction. My problem has always been when you go get third-party ones, it's kind of a crapshoot. You're not sure what you're getting.
Yeah, I can't speak to their design here. I think I mentioned this in some other context pretty recently, that the DualShock sticks, apparently the solder job is like kind of beyond normal people, even according to iFixit, who would be the first people to say, no, you can do it yourself. Like, here's how. Like, even they were like, yes, the soldering on this is very difficult if you're not very experienced. So I don't know if it's a similar situation here.
I don't think so. I've done this on the Xbox controller, and it has not been as bad. The PlayStation 5 controller is a nightmare. Is it the DualSense? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, is a nightmare controller. I don't know how deep. I know, Brad, you opened one up, right? Like they have.
No, that was a DualShock 4 that I did recently. I've never opened it. I would be afraid to open a DualSense because they're still so new. They
are ridiculous in there. Even their PCBs they have film PCBs basically, which the whole thing is very complicated. And don't forget, you've got the feedback on the haptics on the triggers and all that stuff. I want to say when last time I did this, the analog sticks on the Microsoft PCB are through hole, like just 6 tabs, I think. Maybe on that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, obviously, but I don't remember it being that big an issue. Like an incredibly hard issue. It wasn't like a bunch of surface-mounted nonsense on it. I think it was, up, down, left, right, and then the click in and a ground. I think I could be wrong on that. But I replaced them, and then the one I got also was like didn't work that well, and that controller wound up hitting the bin.
Yes, aftermarket sticks are kind of a crapshoot.
So $35 for the PCB, most of the innards, let's say, not the cosmetic stuff. Not terrible, but a new controller is what, $60, $50?
I forget how much a current one is.
Like not a novelty one?
I bought a new one for like $40 on. Like
okay,
you can find sales on them pretty regularly, but
so like you're kind of approaching, maybe just got a new stick at some point. land, though. That look, for me, it's not only just repairing it; it's keeping it out of the trash, which is nice.
Yes.
So
I think it's 60 regular.
60 like retail MSRP.
Yes.
And it's probably worth noting at this point. While again, I love this. I think this is the right thing for everyone to do. They are just. It seems like the shell. They're just doing the black and the white. So if you have a red one, which is what I have, and your dog chews your red shell, you are replacing that with just the white and the black.
That's been an issue with Nintendo. Basically established that lifetime policy of replacing Joy-Cons with drift because of the class action lawsuit.
Yeah,
like you can get those replaced in perpetuity. They do not guarantee you will get the same color back.
Oh, really?
So if you've got one of the limited edition like Zelda or Pokemon Joy-Cons or whatever that came with a specific Switch, and you need to send it in for stick drift, every possibility you'll just get a gray one back.
See, I don't love that.
Yeah,
which is a rough one for sure.
And you can't just open it and send them the parts.
No. At that point, I think I would recommend the Switch joystick replacement is not that hard if you don't want to lose your cool, unique Joy-Con. I'm curious to see when the new Switch finally comes out. Like all the talk in analog sticks lately has been the Hall effect sticks, which like I can't fully explain the difference. I know
it's
that
like the like non-physical contact.
Yes. Yeah. The parts that track the movement don't touch each other. They're using some kind of electromagnetic field resistance, something. Versus the traditional ones that where like a pad wears down as the part moves back and forth on it over time. Curious to see if that ends up in official console designs anytime soon, like say in some new set of Joy-Cons that might come with a new Switch.
Right. I mean, look, that repair thing. I sent a Joy-Con in for repair. I've done it. I got it back, same color. But now my Pro Controller, I have to go and calibrate that thing probably every 2 weeks or something in their calibration tool, because I'll be on the Tears of the Kingdom map and suddenly the map just starts moving down on its own.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't think I've had that with any of my Pro stuff, but I had at least 2 Joy-Cons that got drifty.
Drifty.
Yeah. I survived until Animal Crossing came out, and then my girlfriend played something like 300 hours of Animal Crossing, and the sticks definitely did not make it through that.
Look, those things wear out, which I think is why this repair stuff is so important and so great, especially as we get into things where hopefully at some point Sony and Nintendo get into this. This is the thing that came out of the EU recently, was with battery stuff, right? Like you have to have consumer electronics, you have to be able to replace the battery, right? Wasn't that the regulation that they're trying to get through now? It was unclear what the line was on handheld electronics, but being able to replace the battery on those things seems like another step in this whole bigger picture, right? Of repairing your stuff. Then that would be awesome as well. Another quick note, as I'm just looking at this Microsoft Store page currently, and this is as of the 9th, you can only buy the top of the stick, not the back part of the stick. Which maybe that's the thing.
What up with that?
I don't know.
What up with that?
I mean, look, I guess if you're breaking the back of the stick, what the fuck are you doing with the back shell of that thing? What are you even doing at that point? But look, like I said, my dog chewed through a PlayStation controller. It's when I had to open up that DualSense controller, chewed through it, and it was bad news in there. It was the PlayStation 4 controller my dog did, and even that was bad news in there. Cool stuff. I'm way into it. Making it easy for people to do, also awesome. I think selling, as much as I'd rather them even get more granular in the parts they sell, selling the things just all wired up together as one kit, probably the way to go. Make it easy for people to just drop in and get it. More stuff. Do we ever see, Brad, question, do we see them do this for anything with inside Series X? Hey, your fan making a lot of noise? Here we go. There's an OEM cooler. You will not void your warranty going inside your Xbox Series X to change a fan.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
My Switch fan needs to have some work done on it, and I don't necessarily want to get in there. It goes like for a little bit when it.
I bet that's not the hardest swap.
I looked it up once, and a lot of people got into like aftermarket coolers on that thing, and I was like, ooh, should I do that?
What if you liquid cooled your Switch?
Okay, we are moving on. Ridiculous. That thing should not need liquid cooling. I'll just wait till the next one.
Hang on. Now I need to know if somebody's done that.
Of course they've done it. Somebody has put a Switch in like a mineral oil bath and just done that. Of course they've done it. Don't be silly. Speaking of putting things in ridiculous coolants and stuff, Alex, you went to Evo.
I didn't go anywhere. I'm at home, man. I don't leave this place.
You watched some Evo?
I did. I watched almost all of it, or at least all the main stage stuff.
What was the main stage? I mean, obviously Street Fighter 6 was huge, but what else makes it on the main stage at this point?
Well, so it's over the course of 3 nights. The opening night main stage finals this year was only Mortal Kombat 11, because it was the last time that game will be appearing as like a main attraction at Evo. That was actually, to me, one of the better ones of the whole thing, because I will just say, so the current dominants in Mortal Kombat 11 were a pair of, I want to say, Chilean twins.
Okay.
One of which won last year. But then they were both in the finals this year, and one of the other players, essentially out of loser's bracket, had to run through both of them to win, and they did.
Okay.
And they did it with the most annoying Fujin you've ever seen in your fucking life, and it was kind of amazing. But as far as the other games, like Street Fighter 6 was the headliner. On night 3, the other ones were Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Tekken 7, and Guilty Gear. And then the night before that, Dragon Ball was the headliner, and it was like Blaze Blue, Melty Blood, a couple of other things, which those are the ones I didn't watch.
Man, Dragon Ball Fighter's still going?
Dude, yeah. And it's, it wasn't my favorite Dragon Ball top 6 or anything, but it was fun. Like, that game is still a ton of fun to watch. Street Fighter 6, though, is fucking hype, I gotta say. Like, That was, I think, to me, the most exciting one. There were a lot of mirror matches at the end this year in a lot of games. I'm not really sure why that happened. But the lead up to like, all of top 6 in Street Fighter was fucking fantastic. Tokido had a little bit of a Cinderella run for a while there as one of the old men of Street Fighter, and the final match had Blanca in it, so I was pretty excited about that.
Any any not main event stage stuff that you were able to see or witness that was like custom character fights going on for Street Fighter?
I didn't catch any of that. As far as I can tell, is if you're in the main Street Fighter tournament, you have to play one of the main characters.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, no, it's just like, I think Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were my favorites this year. Tekken is always fun. Dragon Ball is always fun. They weren't my favorite finals, but it was a good Evo all around.
If you are an Evo fan, if you are a fan of the Evolution Championship Series, put your fingers in your ears, because I'm about to ask a real dumb question. But Alex Navarro, what's the state of Smash in Evo?
Non-existent, as far as I know.
Okay, there is. It's like
at
Nintendo.
Least not, maybe people are running tournaments on the side, but it is definitely not part of the main stage lineup that I could tell.
Okay. Is that by choice, or is that by mandate?
I forget where that stuff bared out at a certain point. I know that Nintendo was being a real dickbag about it for a while, as like people doing tournaments outside their very narrow structure for their competitive stuff. But yeah, I haven't seen... Smash was at EVO for a while. I don't know if it's because it just fell out of favor or what, but it has not been in the main stage, I think the last couple of years at least.
Okay. Well, fun Evo for a bunch of reasons. You got Street Fighter 6, and you had the finals or the final showing probably of Mortal Kombat 11. I guess if MK1 is a real bomb, they'll stick with 11, but that seems unlikely.
You know what it is Mortal Kombat never has like a gigantic following at Twitch. Like, there are years where it has a greater prominent placement, but like a lot of the time it feels very much like it is kind of a second fiddle game to a lot of other stuff. And maybe it just doesn't have the same player base as like Street Fighter. But yeah, like I don't feel like Mortal Kombat is ever like the game at EVO.
Like maybe not in the competitive fighting scene, but my understanding is that sales-wise, it like blows every other fighting franchise out of the water.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic as far as sales go, but it is not. It is just never like the number one headliner for that show.
Yeah, it seems like it usually gets like a year, maybe 2 years before it kind of drops off the main stage.
Did you mention
like
Tekken 7?
Yeah.
There? Okay.
It was on day 3, but it was like the second day 3 finals, not it had headlined, I think, last year at least, if not a couple of years prior to that.
So probably last big Tekken 7 showing as well, right?
Well, they kept saying during the commentary, we think this is the last time Tekken 7 will appear, but given that it does not have a final release date yet, I guess they're just hedging their bets.
Okay. Well, there was some news there, or fighting game news, but I'm not in the fighting game scene, and then further removed, I'm not in the Killer Instinct scene. But Brad, you're aware. I feel like you're a full gore main.
Xbox One launch game Killer Instinct is getting an update.
What does that mean?
Courtesy of Iron Galaxy, coming out of retirement. It's been, I don't know how long since it got an update. I think it's been several years since they stopped putting out content for that thing.
It's been quite some time.
They did keep it going for quite a while once they started putting like the Battletoads in there and stuff. Kind of want to pull up a full list of characters now. Didn't Master Chief get in there as well? Oh, and the Arbiter. From Halo. Like they were kind of right. General Rom from Gears of War is now in there. Like they definitely started pumping some interesting guest characters into Killer Instinct for a while, but I'm not sure when season 3 ended. And anyway, Killer Instinct is basically done, but Iron Galaxy announced at EVO like they're going to do a big balance update and like fix the matchmaking and put out a 4K patch for the new Xboxes.
That's wild.
They're actually calling it a 10th anniversary update.
Sure.
Which, I mean, that's awesome. Like I'm not, I don't have any particular affection for that Killer Instinct.
It was good. I mean, I didn't play a ton of it, but it was fine.
Like I didn't play a bunch of it is what I mean, but it's awesome that they're doing this. Like how often does a 10-year-old game get an update like this?
Who do you who's back in this one? Is that just
Microsoft? Just I mean, you never know how stuff like this starts. Like it could have been somebody at Iron Galaxy just like kind of kept the flame kindled all this time and made an argument, ran it up upstairs and like convinced people with money that this should be funded. Do
you think this has any... Should we just take this as face value and be like, look, this is the update for this, or does this have any kind of seeding for more Killer Instinct? I don't know. Just take this one as a face value. Yeah, like I certainly would not expect like a season 4 or a new Killer Instinct or anything like that off of this, but they are getting it like, nice and playable on the new console. I have no idea what the nature of the matchmaking update is, but if you're doing not matchmaking, the balance update. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what that entails, but if you're doing a balance update after this long, I assume it's because people in the hardcore community have identified some unbalanced stuff that they would very much like tweaked. I mean, in that quote, right, it said more Killer Instinct for the next 10 years, which is like... Yeah, that one's like, yeah, sure, like, okay. Sure, all right. I'll believe that when I see it, but like... Presumably there are some balanced things that fans were not thrilled with, and also they're fixing matchmaking, and they're making it viable in an ongoing way. That's cool. It's fun. That sounds fun. Yeah. There are some Killer Instinct fans out there. What's the skeleton's name? The Spinal. Spinal. Yes. Like possibly the best name ever for a skeleton character. Look, basically my beginning and end with Killer Instinct is the announcer, right? Which was ridiculous. And also the look of that game, which was ridiculous. Yes. But I was terrible at it, and I was garbage. Killer Instinct. Everything about KI is such ridiculous 90s, like extreme attitude. Like post-Mortal Kombat, like we need to be over the top too. The only way this announcement could have been better is if they were streaming and then they interrupted with a combo breaker for this announcement. Yes. Look, I know 3 things about Killer Instinct. One of them is Combo Breaker. Is there a better name than Spinal? Most games wouldn't even name their skeletons. Most games don't allow the skeletons to have names. Mr. Bones. That's pretty good.
Bony guy.
Regimortis. I guess that'd be a good zombie name.
That's more of a corpse name, yeah.
Wait, are these from actual things, or are you just coming? Are these just off the head?
Look, Mr. Bones could be a real thing because that's obvious. Somebody else says Mort, who's the skull in Planescape, I think.
Who's the character from Medieval? Must have a name, right?
Oh yeah, definitely must have a name. Sure. Like Undead Fred or something. I don't know.
Yes. I don't know. Spinal, easily a top 10 skeleton.
Yes. All right, that's going to do it for the news for now.
Sir Daniel Fortescue is the name of the medieval character.
Okay.
Medieval. That's going to do it for the news. We are going to roll into the emails now. We have an email address at podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Hold on, let me get this document open because, Brad, you said you were going to drop a link on us.
Yes. Our email for this week is from Brandon, but there is no body. There is just a URL. Subject line: people driving into the ocean because of GPS directions, 5 exclamation marks.
Oh boy.
No.
Which we talked about, which you proposed as a social experiment on the Ramblecast yesterday.
I did not propose that we should do it. I suppose
I just said it was going to happen.
As a thought experiment, we said how long would it take? How many people could you get to detour if you hacked GPS, say Google Maps, Waze, or Apple Maps?
Well, if you click that link, you will...
Okay, I'm clicking this link.
You will get some indication.
Oh, boy. Brad, do you want to read the headline on this news story?
Another tourist following GPS directions mistakenly drives car into Hawaii Harbor.
Okay, so Alex is the one who said, hey, could you get people to drive a certain 15 minutes out of their way to a certain destination? And Alex said you could get people to just drive off into the
river. Yes.
Drive into the East River. Yes. Yeah. Well, guess what?
Oh, man.
Now you don't have to run the experiment anymore.
I'm sorry, I'm scanning this story. How did this... okay, Good Samaritan. She was okay. This person, heads up, was all right. But the driver got out, was using GPS that led her to take that route. Look, folks, we gotta do this together. We're gonna need everyone on board on this one. All right.
I'm gonna need you to start watching the road a little bit more and a little less the phone screen that is showing you a little map thing because, as it turns out, that thing is not 100% reliable.
We're gonna have to work on this. We're gonna have to take some of this on us. All right.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna. It's on us.
It's on us. All right, Brad, do we have any other emails that came in for this week?
Let's call it there for this week.
Okay. You can send in your emails to podcast@nextlander.com. That's podcast@nextlander.com. And that is going to do it for this week's show. Brad, have some safe travels out there.
Yeah, thank you.
We, like we said before,
coming to you from your coast soon.
That's great. The best coast, the East Coast. Like we said before, Brad's going to be traveling, which means if you want to catch up on our Remnant 2 series, you can now. We have, I think, about 3 sessions up. We had
at least maybe 4. I can't remember.
3 in the last week. There was one more before that. That was like
a
week in between. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You can check those out. We're going to be taking a little break from that as we explore some other options. Like I said before, on Friday, we're going to have Abby Russell come join us for some Baldur's Gate 3.
Having played that myself now, the potential for chaos in a co-op stream seems high.
Could be. Hey, look, we were going to start with 3 slots open because you're going to be traveling. If you want to come join us at a certain date for that 4th character, just saying, open invite there.
What if you take on someone with a dark urge?
Oh no, I don't know if we have room for the dark urge. I don't know if you can make the dark urge as an add-in multiplayer character. I'll be curious to see. Some of the multiplayer stuff's still a bit of a black box for me. We started Serial Experiments Lane over on the Watchcast. So we have episodes 1, 2, and 3, layers 1, 2, and 3 now recorded and up. You can check that out out over at patreon.com/Nextlander. We had a Ramblecast where you can decide if Dan Reichert's 2-day work week, retire at 45.
Never Been a Better podcast.
Sorry, what did I say?
You said Ramblecast.
We also have the Ramblecast.
We also have that.
Dan Reichert wasn't on that one.
Man, I like the sound of his platform.
2-day work, what was it? 2-day work week, retire at 45 at $75,000 a year.
Open borders.
Open borders, get rid of the Supreme Court. So,
and also all the bees.
Oh, yes. All the insects are basically also dead except for crickets. So you can see a very Dan Reichert, Never Been a Better podcast.
Very Dan Reichert.
Did I intuit from Discord chatter that one of his solutions was to just print enough money to make this happen?
Yes.
Dan backed himself into the $1 trillion coin somehow.
Maybe some implementation details to iron out.
Yeah, he seemed a little alarmed when I told him there are actually people whose job it is to make sure that never happens.
He was just going to secretly pay off all the debts by printing some money. So, look. There are people that are not Dan, that are academics that talk about this stuff too in ways that maybe have a little bit weirder. I'm not saying I agree with them, but their platform is not too far off from Dan's. What if we just made up money to pay off debt? What is current money? What is fiat currency?
Who am I to say he's wrong about that?
That's just right. I mean,
who am I?
Maybe killing the bees was a thing. Anyway, you can check.
Even as someone who's allergic to bees, I can't quite get behind that one.
Yeah, that might have some unforeseen consequences.
No, I think they're very foreseen.
Yeah,
they're extremely foreseen.
Fair, yes, actually. Yes.
But you can check that out with a bunch more stuff on Never Been a Better podcast. Like I was reminded, we also have a Ramblecast up where we talk about the wonderful world of technology for a while and GPS and
Ain't it just?
You can check that all those things over on patreon.com/Nextlander. And just a quick reminder, because Patreon keeps reminding us, if you notice anything funky with your payment stuff, apparently there was like some banking switch they had on their back end. So if you are like, where is my podcast? Just make sure to go check that stuff out. If you lost your feed or something's not coming through, some payments got more payments than usual, I guess, got bounced around this time. Also on patreon.com/Nextlander is a tier, along with the other fine tiers there, called the Mysterious Benefactors tier. And they get their names read on this here podcast. Alex Navarro, can you read this week's Mysterious Benefactors for us?
Not only can I read, I can read these Mysterious Benefactors.
Fantastic.
And they are Ryan Waterman, RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre 7th Level Warlock, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes. Bunny Fiend also claims to be a room temperature superconductor. Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Thanks to our Mysterious Benefactors for this week. Thanks for supporting us throughout. Some of those names, long-time supporters, and we really appreciate it. Thanks
Happy to have you.
Happy to have you. And thanks to everyone who has supported us, whether it's on Patreon, watching our stuff over on YouTube and Twitch, and all around listening to our fantastic Nextlander content.
Allegedly.
Hey, listen.
I don't want to make any bold claims here. I don't want to get sued for false advertising. People out there say it's great.
Never been a better podcast. Sometimes I even get the name right.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes. Look. Mostly at night. Mostly. Brad, again, safe travels out there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll catch up with you next week from the East Coast. Alex Navarro, I'm going to see you tonight for some dinner.
Yeah.
We can
do that now.
Yeah, you're a Jersey boy.
I got a car. I'm on this side of the state line. Let's do it.
That's true. You got a car. I don't, but that's why you drive over to...
You only need one, is the thing.
They only need one. That's right. Fantastic. We'll just keep an eye on that GPS this time. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Brad. And we'll be back next week.